All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, gotcha.
All right. Before we get started, if anybody is Dallas suburbs or Remax Premier and you have your camera on, wave. All right,
See you guys.
look at all those new faces joining us here. And just a little backstory. It's probably a little over a month ago, Ivy and I with David Haller met in person, and the most important thing was the cultural mix that we felt. And I think from there everything just kind of fell together naturally. So welcome everybody. And even though we say agents don't show up for meetings, I think almost all the agents came to one of those two meetings. So thank you, Ivy, for putting that together.
That was a great meeting. Great meeting and well received by all the agents. They're really excited about being part of the team.
And the glue that put this connection together is right next to you, Brenda. Thank you.
Brenda Mansell, thank you so much.
You guys are welcome. Glad to be here.
Couldn't have done it without her. She gave me the confidence and the trust to move forward.
Absolutely. So I want to say we had some great conversations, more than just blending our cultures together, but we had some really good business discussions with some of your agents, and I think I might have given some very talented people some new perspectives, and that's what I really love and enjoy doing. And this week's topic is about how can you transform or change your business in the next 7 days. What type of things would we need to do to really have an impactful change? And before I kind of go into my thoughts on that, does anybody have any ideas on like what you feel like you could do to have a major impact in the next 7 days? I'm not talking 2026. I'm not talking the next 3 months. Like, what could you do virtually immediately to have a high impact on your business?
Connect with another agent.
Connect with another agent. Because, Wilson, one thing that I want to just mention is that our biggest challenge is ourselves. It's not I don't really care. I don't care. Yeah. Hang on, we have some technical issues. So I don't care about what the market does. I don't care what the competition does. Some people are like, oh, Compass and Anywhere merged. If your future is concerned about what somebody else is doing, then we have the wrong perspective. And the purpose of this call is to figure out how we can make some changes that will give us the ability to consistently provide, high levels of service to, our existing and future clients that we don't even know who they are. And if you don't believe that, I think that's a fundamental change that we need to do a little bit of introspection on. If I ask you, what's your plan for next year? Have you finished your business plan? And it starts with this. Well, it depends on the interest rates. Be prepared to hear a lecture from me. Okay, because my children aren't going to not want to eat if the interest rates change, and neither should yours. They're not going to want to cancel vacation. You're not going to want to stop funding your retirement plan because the market slows down, if that makes any sense. Okay. Serby, are you your ears must have been ringing because I spoke about you yesterday. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right. So if I saw this guy from New Jersey come down from Texas and talk like I did, they might be saying this guy is like maybe full of it. And I was actually, just sharing a very recent experience that we had. And I don't know if maybe you can give us a 1 to 2 minute summary of kind of like our first meaningful interaction.
Okay, so I had a listing, which I had a previous listing similar to that, which I did not price correctly, which I find out now based on what I learned from Rob. He explained to me how to prepare a presentation so that I can actually get in front of the listing and not behind it, because the seller wanted to be $100,000 above what was actual list price. And Rob explained to me how through the MLS, which I didn't know you could do these things on it, where you could actually take your MLS, take the numbers, figure out the date on the market versus when it was sold and how fast it would sell. And I was able to actually physically show an international buyer how to see numbers. And I guess numbers speak all languages. And I actually even took it one step further and I put it into ChatGPT, and I think Mandarin was a language. I switched into, I said, what was the highest and most used language in China? And turned that entire presentation into the language that they can understand. The wife spoke, the husband did not. So he was so happy to be able to actually be part of the transaction and not have to have his wife translate everything. And luckily, ChatGPT did translate it exactly and didn't put in words and everything. I asked her, I said, I've never done this before. Was it okay? And she said, yes, it was perfect. And it was very simple to understand. So taking Rob's lesson in how to take a actual chart and show the seller how it would be better to put a home price at the, what I think you called it the auction price. There was the marketing price, the lottery price, and the auction price. We got the seller to understand and put the price at a auction price. And it worked out very well. And we're doing good with the listing right now.
And can you tell your group here what the different pricing strategies was and what they picked?
Yeah, they pick, so the highest is the lottery, where everyone thinks you're gonna hit the lottery and someone's going to pay way above asking. So that was the number that they were actually at that point. The second number is the market value, where it would just sell at this point. And if they strategize and put it at the market price. Auction price is way under the value of the home. Or I think it was a good point. It was an understandable place where I can get more traction and more showings on the home. And all three of those, I was shocked when I asked them, which one would you like to pick? Because it was a question, like, Rob always says, ask the question, ask the question. Well, so this time I turned around and I asked the question. I said, where would you like to be? And it was a matter of minutes when they came back and told me they picked a number. And I almost fell out of my seat when they gave me the auction price. And I asked, because of the language barrier, I said, can you text that to me? And I was expecting a much higher number, and it was exactly what the auction price. So, and they said, I like your strategy. And I was just, dumbfounded. I'm like, wow, this really works. So, awkward pause.
Sorry about that. I just needed to reclaim the host. So now I'm back.
Okay.
And Serby, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. I didn't set you up for this. And it was
Set
just
me up right now.
yeah. So many times our experiences and our processes that we used in the past, there are crutch. We fall back on them, but I think if you have a different perspective, and the perspective I had with you and your client, Serby, I believe that helps your client, and I believe it avoids frustration and it gets them a better outcome. And I know all of us, universally, I think a lot of agents in Texas and Arizona, everywhere, sellers are always biased towards overpricing their house because they think that if I ask more, I'll get more, right? But that's the paradox. It doesn't work that way. And when you tell them, there's friction, there's resistance, right? And I don't know if Bill is on the call, but Bill, I guess, was Bill a manager here before Ivy? Did he manage here?
Yeah, he was manager, gosh, for many years. Yes.
So Bill was a manager here, and when I was talking, this very intelligent man with a lot of experience, he's writing this down. He's like, the illusion of choice. I love that. I'm going to use it. And what I meant by that when I talk about the illusion of choice is Serby educated her client by saying you can price it at where an appraisal would come in at, right? And the cardinal mistake that I think we make as agents or we say, this is my recommendation, then you own that. But if you separate yourself and say, if you hired an appraiser, they use a certain technique to come up with a value, this is what your property would appraise for. That's one strategy we can discuss. Second strategy is to price it to get multiple offers and competition. We call that auction or event pricing. And then the third is to price it to try to win the lottery or to have room to negotiate down. If we decided to work together, would you be in favor of having more than one option? Everybody would say yes, right? And then you say, would it be helpful for you, Serby, if I shared with you how other sellers fared by taking these different options before we decided if we're a good fit to work together? And even converting it into a foreign language and sending it via email, it was effective. And I think what we've been taught is to come up with a singular value and say, I, Rob, think your home is worth this. And guess what? If they disagree with you, you now have friction,
Yeah.
right? And, every mother cannot be unbiased about their baby child, and every homeowner can't be objective about their home. It's just human nature, right? So why are we going to continue as an industry to offend people with the truth? And it is the truth that we're telling them, but it does kind of come across as slightly offensive. And another thing that I'd like everybody to hear, and I know some of you have been on here a bunch of these calls, and you might be like, I've heard this a bunch of times, but it really has impact, and it really becomes second nature the more that you hear it and the more that you process it. So you're giving them the option and sharing with them how it works is what's going to help them make the right choice. And we're really an advocate. We're not, we shouldn't be negotiating against our clients to get the listing. We shouldn't be going there and saying, and I asked a bunch of our new agents down here in Texas, did people in Texas go and say, hey, can we try it at this price for 2 weeks? And everybody was like, of course they do that. And it's very tempting to just agree with that to get the listing signed, right? I mean, has anybody in Texas recently acquiesced and taken it at the seller's price? And then you're basically backtracking to try to tell them, well, the market's now telling us that we made a bad choice and we need to keep repositioning it. Has anybody in Texas done that?
Yeah, the agents do it a lot and they shouldn't. Because, when you see the market with inventory so high and demand low, then nothing's going to happen, but prices are going to start coming down. It's a tipping point. So they need to know and understand whatever they put it at today is going to probably come down a little bit. So they can't take wiggle room, as I call it. You can't take the wiggle room right now. This is a great time for buyers because inventory is so high in Texas. So you have to be very careful. You can't let the seller dictate and control what you're doing.
Right. So, and here's another question. I'm going to ask this to Cindy Reddy. Can you win an argument with the seller at a listing appointment? So you're on mute. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but can we win an argument?
No, definitely not.
So if the seller says, I want to list my house for, I asked probably 8 to 10 agents, if a house in Texas or Dallas or Plano is worth 700, what does the seller generally think it's worth? And the majority
750.
said 825 to 850. Okay. 825 to 850. Now, if we go there, Cindy, and we take it at 825 or 850, that's really, in my opinion, it's a poor decision, right?
Exactly, because then it's a continual discussion and they're disappointed every time you talk to them about it. So, and they don't remember the initial conversation. So if you can have that initial conversation, and I love the way you've segmented the pricing so that they can help with the choice, then they're buying into it from the beginning.
Yep. And Cindy, as our new broker, what's going to happen is if our agents acquiesce and take those overpriced listings, right? And I'm the broker of record for New Jersey, so occasionally I'll get a call from a seller saying that, I listed my house for 850 and it hasn't sold. I'm really disappointed in so-and-so, right? And
Mhm.
maybe they even ask me for a release. It's very rare, but it does happen. And it's because as soon as you sign the paper with 825 on it, they think that they convinced you that it's worth 825. Is that possible that a seller could think that they convinced you when you signed the papers at 825?
They do believe that.
They
They
do,
they
they
believe,
do,
yeah,
they, they,
absolutely.
they do believe it, right?
Mhm.
And so put this in your memory bank. You can't win an argument with the seller, but what you can do is you can ask questions to get them to the right conclusion, just like Serby did. So she didn't argue with her. She probably couldn't argue with them because she didn't speak Mandarin, but it just further evidence that, if you ask the right questions, say, hey, here's 3 strategies, here's how they perform, which would you like to choose? It's magical. And by the way, Serby, is it under contract yet or just like in attorney review now?
It's getting there. We're about to finalize some things today, so
Now, isn't it eerily frightening how close to the number that you gave them that these offers are coming up towards?
yes,
And
it's
it's higher than you thought it would sell for, right?
I think they're surprised as well by it, so they're not complaining about anything right now.
So the client is surprised. The client priced it a little bit below what we thought it would sell for, what we would call the market. And now we've gotten prices, close to 6 figures above market value on the offering. So that's not arguing with like, we gave them the information, they understood it, and then they made the right choice for themselves. So you can't win an argument, and you need to be able to ask better questions to get to where you need to be, right? And I see Dean saying self-discovery for the seller. Um, I guess part of this is, and it's not part of what I wanted to go over today, but part of it is, you know, we in Dallas and Arizona, in New Jersey, and all the areas where we go, if you look around, we have some of the most talented individuals in the business, but the opportunity for us to improve is by learning how to communicate to maybe even another generation of clients, right? In the way that they want to be communicated with so that there's not friction. And the way to do that is not by presenting and hey, I'm the expert, here's what we need to do. It's by asking better questions. Okay. And when I was talking to a couple of the agents here in Texas, they were asking me, well, how do I go about, helping an agent secure a listing? And I'll ask some questions, which they were like, these are great questions, but they never thought about it, right? So if I'm going into Beth Steele's house and I'm starting to have that conversation, and I don't know if you're able to unmute Beth, I would ask you this. So Beth, have you sold a property with a real estate agent in the past 10 years,
Yes,
right? Is anybody asked that question?
I haven't actually. I ask them I move forward from there and say, what was your experience? What did you like about that agent and experience? And what did you not like about it? What would you change about that experience?
Yeah,
Because
and
that walks you right into the changes in the industry, and it just gives you information on how you can present, how you're going to be a value to them.
yep, and now isn't that such a disarming process when you ask that question, right? And I would have thought
Very much.
maybe some people would be like, well, what does that matter, right? And you might have one, type A personality that's barking at you. Beth, what does that matter? What happened? What I thought, right? And how, I'm going to put you on the spot. How would you respond if they're like, what does that matter, Beth? What does it matter how it was the last time? We're just talking about us.
Because I want I want us to make sure we're on the same page, we're on the same playing field. So I'm kind of shooting
So,
off
so,
the
so
cuff
Beth,
here, obviously.
Beth, I would say, like, I just wanted to understand what about that experience was satisfactory to you
Right,
and what wasn't, so that I can improve upon that, right? So I would take a
right.
barking dog and I would say, hey, Beth, you know what? I appreciate you asking me that question, but I want to understand what was acceptable, what you found
Mhm.
valuable, and I also want to improve on what you felt could have been more value. So I hope you don't mind me asking, because I want to improve the experience.
Yeah, and I actually won a listing over asking those questions. They had a realtor that they used for several transactions who had left the state. And it was between me and three others, and it ended up being a $1.3 million sale, and I won it. Because the big thing they
Right.
said was that I cared about what they felt. The guy was an engineer, and I mean, he was hard to work with, but I won the listing and got it sold and got both sides.
I mean, if an agent can look into like they could look into our soul when we're at their table, like they would know that we're there for more than just a transactional commission. We're there for a relationship and adding more value, right? And it's hard to add more value if we can't control the process, right? If the clients are taking, bad decisions, then it challenges our ability to serve them at a higher level, right? And talking and explaining to them, like if you say, "Hey, here's a pet peeve of Rob," and if you hear yourself saying this, you probably might want to reevaluate. Beth, you have to understand when you do, like when you just say that to me, it's kind of like a little bit offensive. I don't have to understand, right? You're here talking to me, right? And in reality, your job is to get me to understand without talking to me like a 2-year-old. You have
Correct,
to understand if you overprice it, like, and you could be saying the exact same thing, but the response is going to be different.
right? You've
You
got
have
to
to
get to know
understand it.
them and what's motivating them before you have the answers, because you might be completely off base and offensive to them and not even realize it. Yeah.
So a better way would be, so Beth, if we did list that at 825, and here's my style is I say, look, if you found the agent that has all the right marketing resources and they listed at 825 and it's me or somebody else, because I always like to disassociate myself from the process. We list at 825, they've done all the appropriate marketing, they've done the amount of open houses you want, they've exposed it, yet we don't get an offer that's acceptable to you. How long do you wait before you make an adjustment?
Are you the seller asking me?
No, I'm the agent asking the seller.
Oh, okay.
So if you picked me, Beth, or if you picked whoever you felt was the most qualified, they listed at 825. They got
Mhm.
full exposure, beautiful pictures, interactive 3D tour, everything, and it doesn't sell for your price. How long do you wait before you adjust the price?
Well, I mean, I want that price, so I guess I just keep waiting. From the seller, I'm going to tell you that. Well, I'm just, but you probably need to up
But
your marketing because I want it under contract within 60 days because I got to
and
move.
so if you have this $700,000 buyer and they're like trying to convince you to try to test the market at a higher level, right? And
Mhm.
I found Beth going out with 2 or 3, sometimes 4 listing appointments a month, that sellers always have a number in their mind that, hey, if we try it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then we'll lower the price, right? Then I'll say, so Beth, if you have it on for 2 weeks, you lower the price by 1,000 or 100,000, and now somebody comes and sees it, they see it's been on the market and had a price reduction. How do you think they're gonna, discuss making an offer with their agent on that particular property? And the sellers,
Go
good,
ahead. They're probably lowballing me, so I want you to come back up. And
right?
here,
So
I'm not going to tell you my minimum because I want to make sure you can get it as high as you can. These are things I've been told, so.
okay, so it's a lot of good information to discuss.
Mhm.
So if they say that they're going to lowball you, right, and say, I always say, is that, do you think that gives you a position of strength to get the highest offer? Number one, and then number two, when people talk about like, I want this or that, right? If somebody says to you, Beth, I need at least to net 775,000 from this property, and it's only worth 700. This is a head scratcher. How do you go from there? And I'm going to give you all a hint. If you have to think about it, you've already lost. How's that?
Yeah, and I think it's important to know the stats on how many showings, the average number of showings it takes to get an offer. in this kind of market. And I think it's important for people to know the stats on what is normally the highest offer you're going to get. And it's usually the first one.
So, so for me, Beth, if somebody says I need this or I have to get this, right? And by show of hands, who's had people that say they need that, right?
Mhm.
And does that impact like the market value of a home, the fact that they need it or that they over improved it or that they over financed it? Like,
Not
does
at
that
all.
ever impact the value?
No.
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 In fact, if they overprice it, they're going to end up with less than if they just price it in the market,
So,
statistically.
so this is a jot worthy moment if you have a pen. Okay. So if somebody says, I'm in no hurry, I need to get this, they give these signals. I would go back and say, you know what, Beth, it sounds like it's very important for you to make sure you maximize the value of your asset and you don't leave any money on the table. Right. And that's how I transition into the pricing strategy and move away from I need, right? Because I want, I over improved, I did this. It has nothing to do with the value. But what they're really saying is that they want to get as much as they can for the property, correct? And now if they knew that they were interviewing 3 agents and 2 of them were liars and 1 was honest, who would they hire?
The one who's honest.
Right. They would hire the one that's honest. But right now, in the environment we're in today, they will probably hire the liar who tells them what they want to hear unless the honest person has an effective way to communicate that. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. In
So,
fact, what's interesting is when I was in lending for 100 years, like you were, I had realtors that I partnered with very heavily, and we worked on business plans together. And it was interesting because I was working with someone on a pre-approval and they were getting ready to sell their home, and they talked about this same thing. I interviewed 3 agents. This particular one said this price, and the other 2 said this price. And I said, I've worked a lot of years with Steve, and he has been very effective at pricing homes. And be careful to take one that says they will price it higher, because you want somebody who has the experience of pricing in the market. And they actually chose Steve, who actually recommended a lower price than the other 2, and they got it sold in a
right,
reasonable amount of time in the market.
right.
So partnering with people who support you in your business, I think, is really important. And that's something people don't think about doing.
And one thing I'm going to say, Beth, is I would avoid the term recommend.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? So recommend gives you the ability to be in conflict, right? If they don't accept it.
right.
So if you provide, Bill loved this, and you should all write it down too, because he's a very smart man. You provide the illusion of choice. It's worth writing down. The illusion of choice is saying, hey, if we decide to work together, Beth, would it be valuable for you to see 3 different options? And would it be helpful for you to see how other sellers performed by selecting those options? And that, my friends, is what I call the illusion of choice.
Yeah,
And as soon as they pick one of those options, guess who they're committing to work with? Us, right?
yeah,
Is there any conflict of me trying to convince them their house isn't worth that? That's why I almost
no,
don't even want to know what they think their house is worth, because it's not impactful in what the market value of a home is it?
no. They price it themselves when you give them those illusions of choice.
Right, but everybody probably has an opinion, right? And everybody has a theory that if I ask more, I'll get more. And I almost think that studying the process, sellers feel that they can convince Ivy Bolin that their house is worth more than it is. But in reality, they never convince Ivy of that. What they're doing is, they're convincing Ivy to take a chance, try to win the lottery, try to overprice it, right? So using I recommend is another thing that I would write down I would avoid doing. And I would also avoid saying that this is what I think the market price is. And I would go to say, if you were to use the standards that the industry uses to determine market value, this is what an appraisal would likely come in at. So they can't argue with you. You're just saying this is the process, right? We look at square. We all know how to do that. We're not licensed appraisers, but we're very good at doing that. But when we own it and you say your house is worth that, you can get pushback, right? And my example is when I see an appraiser, when back in my lending days, there's a house that sold for 625 and they say it's worth 610. I'm like, you're that good to tell me it's only worth 610? And I'm like, come on, really? So when I tell you your house is worth that, you have the potential to offend them by saying that I'm God. I'm telling your house is worth this. But if I then transform that and say, look, based upon the industry practices, this is what the market value of your home would be by 99 out of 100 professional agents would tell you that this is the range or the market value of your home. Now, the good news is that's not what it's going to sell for. That doesn't even need to be what we introduce it to the market for. There are other options. If you're interested, I can give you some other options. And if you have some time, I can show you how they perform. Now, the problem is, some of us on this call haven't really learned how to do that yet, but that's something that's the easy part. Okay. We can teach you how to do that. And then the linguistic part and the conversation part is probably more of the challenge. Okay. Arguing with sellers and negotiating with them on how they introduce it to the market is probably a bad way to start a business relationship and not good for abundant repeat and referral business, in my opinion.
I don't know how many people were on the Jared James call yesterday. It was pretty good. He said something that kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I've been selling real estate for 20 years, 20 plus. He said, when a home is listed, that is the offer to the market. And when somebody, has a contract that they're presenting to you, that is actually a counteroffer to what you're offering in the market. So they're actually aligning, their interests plus what is going to be accepted in the marketplace. And so their initial offer is a counteroffer to your offer to the market. And it just, it makes me think. I haven't, I need to ponder on that more, but I thought that was a really interesting approach because it's true. It really is true. It's your offering to the, yeah, Rebecca McDowell said it was a great session. It really was, and great ideas. But I loved that because it's, it really is. I'm offering, $700,000 to the market for my price. Now I'm looking for a counteroffer. Or please accept, because I've overpriced it. It's what a lot of them are thinking, but you're pondering on that one, I can tell.
Well, are you implying like that a consumer can say that if you put it out there at 700, that's what the seller's looking for? Because I would take a little exception to that. Because
Well,
like if
that's why I said I really want to think more about that.
right, but I think that's more of a traditionalist model because I look at it from the perspective of if I was to, take a piece of artwork from Dean McNeil in Pensacola. He has a piece of art in his house and I want to sell it for 2 million. I'm going to start the bidding at 600,000. Okay. Because I want to get people interested. Now I want to see where the animal spirits will take the ultimate price. Right. Now, if I wanted $2 million and I put it on at $2 million and I have no offers, then that's not going to take me to a good place, is it?
No, and that's feedback right there.
Right. So that's why I like look at it and say, if we can stop arguing, because I'm offended if you tell me the value of my house is X, like I'm like you're not God, you don't know. I might get lucky. And if you tell me I have to understand, then you're really pushing my buttons there, Beth, right? Because I don't have to understand anything. I'm the customer. But if I educate you and say, if we decided to work together, if I was the right agent, how would I've had zero people not take that next logical step, right? And when I take ownership to the process, say I think your home is worth this, or I recommend. If you say I think or I recommend, you're opening the forum for a debate, right? I might get lucky. The perfect buyer might come in here and not know what the value is and give me the money. It's possible, but that's not where the smart money is, right? The smart money is looking at the other 22 transactions here and let's see how they performed. So disassociate yourself with, saying this is what I recommend or this is what the value is.
It sounds like we all need to practice on how we, say something versus what our intent is. Because if I say, I think that, that's really not my intent. The market is stating that your property is worth a range of, but I have a tendency to say something like, I think that, or I would recommend, not really expecting to open the debate. So I thank you for saying that, because I didn't
And,
really
and,
think about that it would be opening a debate.
and I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but if I told Mr. Garber, I recommend you listing your house for this, and he said, I want to do something different, I'm almost a little bit offended. I hate to say, but I would be like, what do you mean you want to do something? Like, is that possible that could happen, Robert? If you say I recommend and they don't take your recommendation, that you might be a little bit like aggravated, possibly, right?
Yes, yes. It's like when they say to you, well, my uncle says the house is worth this much, but your uncle is, a fireman. He's not a real estate practitioner. So yeah, I would feel that.
So when somebody says something unreasonable to try to like spur a unrealistic price, here's another um, noteworthy response. Okay, so Robert, it sounds like it's very important for you to get the highest price and not leave any money on the table. Am I correct? And then you go into having the conversation further. So Beth, it sounds like it's really important for you not to leave any money on the table and make sure you got the highest possible price. Am I right? Now, what seller is going to say, no, I want to get less? And then you go back into you sharing with them some different strategies to get the outcome that they really want and deserve. And here's another thing that is very hard to contextualize, but I believe most of us are taking transactions not solely for making that single commission, but we want to do an exceptional job and get referral and repeat business. Is there anybody that just wants that commission, doesn't want referral, repeat business? Raise your hand if you don't want to get referral and repeat business. Okay, there's nobody, Robert. So my theory was correct. But do you think that customers think that we're just there to make the $22,000 commission?
Yes.
Right? I think the customers are thinking that it's all about the 22,000, but for us, it's really about the relationship. And in order for this transaction to be successful for us, we need to deliver an experience that's better than they expected so that they go out of their way to refer us more clients. And that's the way we do our business. However, if I tell you, Robert, hey, my goal is to deliver exceptional service so you go out of your way, like that's like me saying, trust me. As soon as I say, trust me, what do you not do?
Not trust you.
Right? When somebody says, trust me, like my radar goes up and I'm like, why can't I trust Beth? She just said, trust me. Now I don't trust her.
I had a customer who said, as they say in New York, trust me. And then everybody laughs. He said it in a presentation, but you're exactly right. Or to be honest with you, blah, blah, blah. And you kind of think, so you weren't honest with me until now?
Yeah. So this is something that you can't effectively say to them without it being somewhat offensive. But can people feel your motivations without you saying it?
Absolutely.
Right? Don't we all have like a good or a bad feeling about some business interactions and relationships?
Just go to a car lot.
Yeah. So Beth, if people can feel that I am authentically concerned in getting you the best possible outcome, right? It will be easier for me to have that conversation. But if I tell you that, then I don't. If I say, Beth, trust me, this is the right way to go, you're not trusting me. But if I see it, if I can like look in your eyes and see that this is what you're about, it makes the conversation a lot easier. Okay, when you're like, Beth, some of my competitors will just tell you what you want to hear, but my goal is I want to make sure that I don't leave any money on the table for you. And, sometimes I have to walk away from business because I don't tell what they want to hear. And I'm not saying that that's what you say, but they can feel your emotion and your authenticity in the process. So those are a few things that are noteworthy of writing down. I believe, I recommend, this is my price. Just say, hey, this is how the industry determines market value, and Mr. Panos, this is the market value of your house. All right. Now I want to go to.
Can I just add one thing? How do you feel about showing the seller, the potential seller, some of the houses, the competing houses? One of the things several of our agents do when they're going, before they get to the listing appointment, they will preview what they think is competitive housing. And then a lot of times they'll take the seller to show them, this is what your competition is priced at. How do you feel about that?
I have an opinion on that. You may not be surprised.
Okay.
You are being logical or emotional?
Well, I think they're being logical when they
Oh, no,
do.
no. When you go and show them other properties, you're being very logical, correct?
Sure, it's
But
logical,
are home sellers generally logical or emotional?
emotional.
Okay, so I hate it.
So you hate doing that.
So I personally hate it because I've been in earlier on in my career before I realized that knowledge wasn't enough, that had to be knowledge plus communication. So you're just trying to educate an emotional person, which generally is not well. Here's another thing that I discovered yesterday. Do you bring an extensive listing, like the comps and the fancy listing presentation? And I would say what I would do is I would email them that presentation that you used to do and say, Ivy, I'm sure you've reviewed thoroughly the stuff I sent you. And if you're intelligent, you can have a program that shows that they never opened it. And they're like, oh yeah, we looked at it. And you're like, well, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you the high level picture here, right? Works every, this is what I call a wet solution. Okay. This is not perverted. It's wet, works every time. Okay. Because I've been in houses, I don't know if Audrey's on the call, but I've been in houses where people are talking about, oh, I bumped my kitchen out and I have my has a view of the stream, theirs views the woods. And I'm just like, Jesus, is this what I really signed up for? Right. You know, we could have bought that lot that overlooks the stream, but there's mosquitoes and mine overlooks the wood. Forget about it. Like that type of stuff. And when you take them out to show other properties and say, this property is clearly worth more than yours, they might say no, right? Because they're not logical. They're emotionally attached to their own home. So I would say the way Rob would do it would be to put together a analysis of how you come up with the market value, and just say this is the way that the industry would determine market value. I'm sure you looked at it. Now let's talk about different options. Okay. Because how long should a listing appointment be? Here's another good question. Put it in the chat, or if you're someplace where you can unmute yourself, how long should a listing appointment be?
I think that depends on the client.
All right, Wilson, here's where I'm going to break ranks with you. Depends on, like, if I run the process the same way, okay, it's less client dependent and more process dependent. And would that be good if you can kind of control the process a little bit more by directing it by questions instead of like feeling like every appointment is different?
I mean, to a point, I agree. The realtor should always control the transaction, and that starts with the minute you walk in the door for the listing presentation. But there's some of those that are, I mean, I've done listing appointments that are 15 minutes, and then I know I'm walking in with an engineer from Raytheon, and I know I have a 2-hour listing appointment ahead of me where he has to walk through every single database driven point that others really don't care about. And so when I say it depends on the client, I adjust my control based on who the client is.
Okay. And I'm just challenging Wilson to maybe just have an open mind about, having a little bit more of a directed process,
Yeah,
right?
I would say that I have the goal of a 30-minute presentation, but the expectation that I can adjust.
I mean, sometimes people in the industry and maybe somebody sitting in your chair goes a little bit too far. And oh, you have a schnauzer, I have a schnauzer. Oh, your kids go to Wilson School, my kids go. Right? You think that that's building tremendous rapport, but it's kind of really taking you off the target of what you're looking to,
Detrimental. Yeah,
right?
too much rapport is detrimental. You don't want to have it turn into a personal meeting of oh, we can be best friends and meet at the dog park on Saturday. No, no, no. I'm here to do a job. I have a goal in mind. You have a goal in mind to sell it or buy that house. So yeah, you have to keep it on track. Absolutely.
So,
I just adjust it towards the client's needs, wants it, and the obvious of you're going to take more of my time or you're going to take less.
and I think Wilson, the industry has trained us to be like, we're there to educate them. And then it's kind of like at the end of the presentation, which I hate the word presentation.
Yeah.
What do many of us say? Do you have any questions?
Your question should be answered.
Well, no, but like traditionalists teach you to educate them, and at the end say, "Do you have any questions?" And to me, that's I just think it's a broken process.
I think that's why so many agents can't walk into a listing appointment or sit in a Zoom call like this and say, I win 100% of my listing presentations. If you have to ask if they have questions, the only thing that you should be asking at the end of it is, are you ready to sign right now?
Well,
Here's the documents. You really should be, you're educating them, right? So your job's to educate them, not hope that you missed anything.
in the trainings over the years, the question should not be, do you have any questions? But it should be, what questions do you have? You only ask a yes or no question if you're leading them into the yes or no.
Um,
I always like to roll in the next steps. I don't even ask a question at the end of it. I tell them, all right, so now that we finished that up, here's my next steps. The next step is I'm going to go ahead and send you the listing contract. You're going to read through that. And at the end of it, there's going to be a place that you're going to be signing. And what it's going to have in there is what I believe the home, or I guess now I need to correct that, what the market value of your home is. And then I just roll from there. I've already won the listing, and I know I have. We all can sit in the room. Our job is to read people, right? How many of us sit in a listing appointment and know 10, 15 minutes in, we got this. This is our listing.
right. And but also making sure that you have it at the right price, Wilson, so that you can get repeat business from it, right? You
Yep,
can exceed their
absolutely.
expectation. The process of getting business versus having repeat business is just massive. Like if you can get all your clients to refer you 2 or 3 people, like that would change the game. And the only way you do that is by, like Serby did, you get this person to price it right, sell it for more in a shorter period of time, make the experience better. If they have an opportunity to refer somebody, I believe that they're going to go out of their way to say, oh my God, she's a genius. She gave me this different strategy and it worked, right? Because everybody else is doing the same thing. And if you look
Early
in
on in my career, I met a guy that used to, or his wife was a in-house doctor, a concierge doctor, and he transferred that to real estate. And he would tell at every listing appointment, I have 2 goals: one, to sell your house in a timely manner for the most money, and 2, to become your family's realtor. And the concept behind that is that he wanted to build up such an experience for the seller that knowing and admitting that your mom probably has a realtor, your aunt probably has a realtor. I'm going to give you the experience and quality that will transfer to those referrals of, hey, you need to talk to Rob. He is my guy. He did such an incredible job and he built it off referrals. So I agree. Every transaction, and I've transferred that to, I tell them, I'm very honest with my clients. The most important thing at the end of this transaction is that you are so pleased that you can't help but send me everybody. I love your referrals and I appreciate them.
right, and I'm gonna give this like a parallel because and I think overwhelmingly, this group of agents works with people that they like, right? And it's referred to them. It's people that are in their sphere and they really want to do a good job. And the parallel is me. Like, I want to help everybody on this call have a breakthrough so they can help their clients do better. And then in return, have a more valuable business, right? It's not just about, working more hours and doing things like that. And I believe if I do a great job, I can help somebody that you might then go to another agent and say, what the heck are you doing at XYZ? Because the business is not just about the lowest cost to do business. It's about the best process and being around the best people. I put in the chat a 7-day challenge, which was the fundamental of this meeting, which is I'm challenging everybody to make a substantial change. One thing that we all could probably do is, wake up the same time and maybe even take an extra hour in your day. Focus on eliminating distractions. Set some clear goals that you mean. Realize that when you do your business plan doesn't operate in a bubble. It has to be connected with your life plans, your health. Because if you're doing great in business, but you have no energy, you're not healthy, like everything has to be in equilibrium. And just like you wouldn't lie to your clients, don't lie to yourself. If you say you're going to do something, be true to yourself and actually do it. Okay. So these are some things that I think, will help us to, have a better, business lifestyle and ultimately a better life by just, doing some of these activities, these principles. Okay. We tend to make this business a lot harder than it needs to be. Right? Because I know if people could understand what our goal was and that we really will do anything to help them, and then they don't list with us or they don't buy with us, I hear people blaming the customer, the consumer, but in reality, it's on us. If they go with somebody else, you're like, oh, they had a neighbor or they had somebody or they discounted it, and we get upset or we get angry. They overpriced it. They did that. It's never them. It's always us. Okay, it's always on us. And we don't always want every piece of business, but when I hear people, in the industry complain about the consumer, it's really not about the consumer. It's about, what are we doing? And if we miss the target, what could we have done differently to have a better outcome? And arguing with the consumer is a bad idea. Telling them things like, the more you hear this, the more it will be second nature to you, and the more confidence you will have to have better business relationships. And when they look in your eye, they're going to know that you're going to exceed the service, and they're going to want to go out of the way to refer you business. And so, maybe you'll go out of your way today and find somebody else in the business and tell them to come join the Remax Select family. And I really do. It's not why I do it, but it would be nice if that happened. And if anybody, wants to learn more about how to do this, this illusion of choice, and when I say illusion of choice, it's not a manipulative illusion of choice. It just, when you give them options, right, all those options can be satisfied by working with us. They don't need to go outside of this relationship to have different options. And by educating them and asking questions, they'll, in my belief, make the right decision.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
There's a question in the chat from Monica. She says, what do you say when a prospective seller says, what percentage am I paying for your services, as well as when a buyer doesn't want to sign a buyer representative agreement?
That's a great question. And I will say that if you get into total rapport and they believe into the process, the price almost never matters. It's like, okay, so here's how it goes, right? When would you like to get it on? Oh, so the next step is here's the agreement. My fee is X, right? And it's just a natural. And if you've been on listing appointments with me in person, you will be able to attest that, I say that our fee is this. We need to decide how we're going to compensate. Like it just is a natural process. There's not friction there when everything else has gone correctly. And then when a buyer doesn't want to sign a buyer agency agreement, Robert, that's a whole nother show, brother. Okay, that's because we haven't provided the right? We haven't provided the value. They see us as a commodity, right? And when price matters, it's because it's the commoditization of our business. But if you've done all of that and they look in your eyes, Robert, and they know that you're not just here for a commission, they're not going to resist you very hard. Like 95% of the people are not going to fight you. That doesn't mean you can say my fee is 7% plus the outside commission. Yeah, we have to be honest and reasonable, but it's not that's not the dividing point. So I hope, look, I hope this price only matters in the absence of value. So take me up on it. It's free. If you want to have another opinion on how to position yourself for an
David,
appointment. Oh yeah, good. I'll mention this. You want to mute that? If you're a platinum or higher level agent, which means you did 250,000, even if you're new to the company, you're going to be getting an invite today or tomorrow in your mail. Don't think it's junk. It is a invitation. We've invited all the other peers that have done platinum or higher to come and network with us out in Scottsdale, Arizona. I know, Trish, you're probably not so excited about that, but we'll be inviting your peers to come out there, and we're going to mastermind. We're going to do a couple of networking and events, and we're going to have a fun day. So if you see it, fill it out. If you've made platinum or above, congratulations. Even if you're new to RE/MAX Select, it'll be a event where we provide the rooms and the activities for you. You just need to get there, and you know, you're going to be able to feel a stronger sense of belonging to the group, and you'll be like, thank God I don't have to listen to Rob. We could talk to some of the other great, awesome producers in the company. So, and Tyler and the group out in Arizona are helping me to do all the setup.
For those of you who joined us the last couple of years, you know how much fun we had in Maryland and Nashville, and how many things come from this, the collaborations, the connections. And for those that are new to the company, it's the best time to really build that rapport, like Rob said, with each of our agents and our leadership. So I look forward to seeing you guys in Scottsdale. And we're super excited again about this acquisition here in Texas. And I hope you guys.
The dates, just so you know, are November 18th through the 20th. It's the week before Thanksgiving, a Tuesday through Thursday.
That'll be going out very, very soon.
We're excited to have you guys out here.
Awesome.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.